The first reports arrived quietly, almost hesitantly, like whispers in the halls of a newsroom. Menglong, one of China's most beloved actors and rising stars, had been found unresponsive in his apartment. At first, the world refused to believe it. The smiling, calm, and effortlessly charming man they had seen on screens, stage, and social media could not possibly be gone. But as the hours stretched into days, speculation replaced disbelief, and whispers evolved into headlines. The scandal began before the news itself, in the subtle details that no one noticed. Social media feeds exploded with blurry photographs, fragmented posts, and incomplete interviews. Every new piece of information brought more questions than answers. And for a man whose life had been lived in public, the private turmoil that surrounded him became fodder for gossip, accusation, and relentless curiosity. Weeks before the incident, Menglong had been filming a high-profile drama in Shanghai. On set, he was the professional everyone admired. Fans who visited the filming location recalled seeing him patiently engaging with extras, offering encouragement to younger actors, and always maintaining a calm presence, even under harsh weather and grueling schedules. Yet behind the scenes, those closest to him noticed subtle changes. One crew member described it as a shift in energy. He would laugh, but it didn't reach his eyes, she said. Sometimes, he would stare at the floor during rehearsals, lost in thought. We all thought it was method acting, but now I wonder. Another insider, a stylist who had worked with him for years, recounted a chilling moment. During a late-night fitting session, Menglong asked quietly if anyone ever felt like they were living someone else's life. She laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. He didn't laugh back. It was like he was confessing something, she later admitted. Public appearances, however, masked the truth perfectly. On one morning, he attended a fan meet-and-greet that lasted 3 hours. Fans described him as warm, approachable, and endlessly patient. He posed for countless photos, signed autographs with care, and even joked with fans who asked playful questions. Yet, in the brief moments when no one was looking, a shadow would pass over his expression, a fleeting glimpse of exhaustion or unease. Those fleeting moments would later be analyzed frame by frame, as if the public was searching for a code, a message hidden in the flicker of an eye or the curve of a smile. In retrospect, it became clear that Menglong's life had become a performance, one he excelled at, but one that may have come at a personal cost. The scandal escalated when leaked messages from his social media account surfaced. Private chats suggested tension with management and colleagues, though the context was unclear. Some messages hinted at frustration with creative control, while others suggested personal disagreements that had remained hidden from the public. Fans and commentators speculated endlessly. Was there foul play? Was he being pushed too hard by the industry? Was there more behind the perfectly curated life everyone saw online? Every theory carried fragments of truth, but no one could assemble the full picture. Meanwhile, the media frenzy grew. Paparazzi captured images of his apartment building, neighbors were interviewed repeatedly, and every acquaintance was asked to comment. Each report, however, seemed to contradict the next. Some painted him as isolated, others insisted he was surrounded by friends. Rumors of disputes, secret relationships, and hidden debts swirled like a storm. The first eyewitness account that added weight to the mystery came from a delivery worker. On the morning in question, he had noticed Menglong collecting a package, a simple action, but with an unusual expression. He appeared nervous, almost cautious, checking the surroundings before signing. "I thought he was just private," the worker said. But looking back, it seemed like he was carrying something heavier than a box. Inside the apartment, investigators found meticulously organized belongings, open notebooks filled with personal reflections, and a stack of scripts for ongoing projects. What stood out, however, were the notes themselves. They contained confessions, worries, and questions about life, fame, and identity. One line read, "Am I living for me, or for the world watching me?" Another read, "Sometimes it feels like applause is louder than my own voice." These notes were shared anonymously by a friend to journalists, intensifying the scandal. The public, desperate to understand, scrutinized every word. The tragedy became intertwined with curiosity, turning a private struggle into a spectacle. Yu Menglong's family remained in shock. In private statements, they begged for discretion, emphasizing that his struggles were personal and complex. Yet the media attention made privacy nearly impossible. Paparazzi lingered outside their home, and online commentary ranged from respectful condolences to intrusive speculation. Every revelation seemed to feed the fire, and every fan tribute seemed to draw more questions. Some colleagues broke their silence, adding layers to the mystery. One director revealed that during the filming of his last project, Yu Menglong often requested extra time between takes, citing personal reflection. He was dedicated, the director said. Sometimes, it felt like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. But he never complained, at least, not to anyone I could see. Another co-star, speaking anonymously, recalled an incident where he quietly left the set for several hours without explanation. When asked about it, he said he just needed air, a seemingly simple remark that, in hindsight, appeared loaded with hidden meaning. The scandal grew further when online communities started connecting dots, sometimes real, sometimes imagined. Conspiracy theories ranged from disputes with production companies to secret financial pressures. Social media influencers dissected his movements, interpreting gestures and words for hidden significance. Every photograph became evidence, every interview a clue. Yet behind the public frenzy, there was a subtler truth. Yu Menglong had been struggling under layers of expectation from himself, his fans, and the industry. Fame had become a lens through which his life was constantly examined, and the scrutiny created pressure that few could see. One of the most haunting scenes described by friends was from a week before his death. Yu Menglong had taken a late-night walk along the river near his apartment. The streets were quiet, lit only by the orange glow of streetlights. He paused on a bridge, staring at the reflection of the city in the water. A friend later said that he texted him from that spot. "The lights are beautiful, but they feel like they belong to someone else." It was poetic, but also chilling. The statement captured the essence of the man caught between public adoration and private struggle, between the life he lived on screen and the life he felt inside. Investigations eventually concluded that his death was not caused by external foul play. But the mystery remained in the emotional layers, the unspoken tensions, and the questions that could never fully be answered. Why did no one notice the depth of his struggle? Could friends or management have intervened? How much of his pain was hidden behind performance? The first part of Yu Menglong's story outlined the public scandal and the immediate shock that rippled through his fans, colleagues, and the media. Yet, behind the sensational headlines lay subtler, more profound truths, the quiet struggles, the unseen pressures, and the human cost of fame. Part 2 delves deeper into those hidden layers, painting a portrait of a man whose brilliance was shadowed by fear, fatigue, and isolation. In the weeks leading to his death, Yu Menglong's life had become a delicate balancing act. Publicly, he maintained the polished persona everyone adored, warm, witty, and always composed. Behind closed doors, however, those closest to him witnessed a different reality. He was withdrawn, restless, and increasingly hesitant to let anyone see him unguarded. A crew member who had worked with him for years recounted one evening on set. It had been a long shoot, rain machines, repeated takes, and late-night schedules that extended past midnight. While the cast joked and relaxed between scenes, Yu Menglong stood silently by a wall, arms crossed, staring at the floor. When a young assistant asked if he was tired, he smiled faintly and said, "I'm fine. Just thinking." That thinking was often misunderstood. Friends later revealed that he spent hours reflecting on his life, career, and the mounting expectations placed upon him. Some of these reflections were recorded in his journals, handwritten pages that revealed his inner turmoil. Lines like, "The applause fades, but the exhaustion remains," and "I am a character in my own life, but I don't know the role I'm meant to play," were recurring themes. Social media, a source of both connection and pressure, became another arena of struggle. Yu Menglong's posts were always curated, carefully written, and filled with positive messages. Fans saw encouragement and light, but the man behind the posts was often lonely and anxious. He would sometimes stay up late editing captions, ensuring that every word reflected optimism, even when he did not feel it. His private messages, leaked later after his death, revealed glimpses of his stress. In one message to a close friend, he wrote, "They love the image of me, but the man beneath it, I don't think anyone sees him." The sentiment resonated with millions of fans who began to understand that fame can be isolating, even when surrounded by adoration. One of the most haunting moments came from a late-night walk he took days before his death. He wandered along the riverside near his apartment, the city lights reflecting in the water, casting shadows across his face. A friend who noticed him later described seeing him pause on a bridge, eyes fixed on the rippling surface below. He sent a text in that moment, "I can see the city, the lights, the life, but I don't feel part of it anymore." The bridge became a symbolic site after his passing, a place where fans would later gather with candles and letters, creating a living memorial to the silence and struggle that had gone unnoticed. On set, colleagues noticed his fatigue, but often misinterpreted it as concentration or professionalism. Directors described how he would stay after long shoots to help crew members pack equipment or offer guidance to younger actors. His selflessness, though admirable, masked an underlying exhaustion that he never fully expressed. Co-stars remembered him saying, "I can handle more than I show. It's just easier that way." This ethos, while commendable, reflected a recurring pattern in his life, prioritizing others while neglecting himself. His relentless work ethic became part of the narrative of his success, but it also obscured his vulnerability. In the days following the scandal's outbreak, public interest intensified. Investigators and media outlets examined his apartment, discovering the journals, letters, and meticulously organized scripts. Among the notes was a series of reflections about fame, fear, and the pressure to maintain an unblemished image. One passage read, "Everyone applauds, everyone watches, but no one asks, 'Are you okay?'" The simplicity of the lines struck a chord. Fans began to share it widely, and discussions emerged about the psychological pressures of celebrity culture. Online forums buzzed with debates, personal stories, and calls for systemic change in the industry. His family, while devastated, sought to preserve his memory respectfully. They released a statement encouraging fans to honor him by prioritizing emotional well-being and awareness. MENGLONG'S life was full of talent, kindness, and light, his mother said in an interview. "We hope people remember the man, not just the star, and that they care for themselves and others in ways he sometimes could not." Friends also began speaking publicly, offering a more nuanced view of his life. Lee Chung, a close friend and fellow actor, admitted in an emotional live stream, "We saw the smile, the charm, the grace, but not the fear. We assumed he was stronger than he was. In truth, he carried so much alone." Fans, inspired by these revelations, began initiatives that extended beyond mourning. Campaigns were launched under hashtags like #SeeThePersonBehindTheStar and #MenglongLegacy, focusing on mental health awareness, emotional support, and empathy in both public and private spheres. Workshops, online discussion panels, and school programs began incorporating his story to teach young people about vulnerability, resilience, and the pressures of modern life. The impact extended beyond China. International media highlighted the case as a stark example of the human cost of fame, particularly in entertainment industries with high expectations and relentless schedules. Psychologists and sociologists discuss the phenomenon of public persona burnout, a condition reflected vividly in MENGLONG'S life. One particularly poignant tribute occurred on the anniversary of his passing. Fans gathered at his favorite filming locations, carrying photos, letters, and small lights. They read excerpts from his journals aloud, creating a collective acknowledgement of his thoughts and struggles. "It felt like he was speaking to us again," said Lin Mei, a fan who had followed his career for over a decade. "His words, once hidden, are now teaching us empathy." The memorials were quiet but powerful, emphasizing reflection over spectacle. In a symbolic gesture, Fans released paper lanterns into the night sky, each bearing a message of hope, understanding, or personal struggle. The sight of hundreds of lights drifting upwards was both haunting and beautiful, a visual metaphor for Yu Menglong's life, brilliant, transient, and full of silent depth. Meanwhile, the entertainment industry began making incremental changes. Talent agencies introduced mandatory counseling sessions for artists, wellness programs, and stricter scheduling protocols. Interviews with younger stars highlighted the lessons they had learned from a story, the importance of rest, honesty, and seeking help before exhaustion becomes invisible. Documentaries and podcasts emerged, analyzing his career not just for achievements, but for the human narrative behind the success. They emphasized the duality of his existence, the man adored for his charm and performance, yet struggling privately with the pressures that adoration brought.